Good evening. Crisis talks have been going on all day at the Bank of England to work out a deal to save Britain's oldest merchant bank. Barings is facing bankruptcy after one of its traders lost nearly £400 million on dealings in the Far East. He has now vanished. The Bank of England is racing to arrange a rescue before the Tokyo stock market opens in a few hours' time.
The case of Neil lesson is related to loss aversion. But what is loss aversion? Loss aversion is likely to act unethically to avoid loss than to secure a gain. Its impact on tax cheating. Loss aversion likely to cheat in order to obtain a larger tax refund than they are to cheat if they have withheld and are trying to avoid making tax payment. In life, loss aversion often means that people who have made mistakes and perhaps even violate the law through carelessness or inattention of a will take their first consciously wrongful steps in order to attempt to ensure that the mistake is not discovered and they do not lose their jobs or their reputation. In business, firms that are performing well but not as well as they expect or as well as others expect them to may engage in unethical behavior because they are act as profiting as a loss rather than a gain. It's related to behavior ethics concept of framing because of the same situation can often be framed in potential loss or potential gain. How loss aversion appearance in Neil lesson case. Okay, Neil lesson is a former derivative trader who became notorious for bankrupting Barings Bank. After moving to Singapore to execute and clear transaction on the Singapore Exchange, Leeson began making unauthorized trade which initially made large profit for Barings. Although Leeson was supposed to be manage a cash naturally business, he was actually using the bank's money to make bets on the market in an attempt to recoup his trading losses. Leeson losses account twice Barings' available trading capital, and after a failed bailout attempt, the bank declared bankruptcy in February. Singapore Exchange, Leeson began making unauthorized trade. At first, this risky position made large profit for the bank. On behalf of his client, Leeson was primarily trading futures on the primary index in Tokyo. Leeson should have been managing a cash neutral business. This strategy entails managing an investment portfolio without adding any capital. In Leeson's case, if money was made or lost on the trade, it would have belonged to the client. If Barings' only compensation on the trade should have been a commission, and only a small amount of the trade were meant to be proprietary or on behalf of the bank itself. In fact, Leeson was actually using bank's money. Because Barings had given him the responsibility of double-checking his own trade, rather than reporting them to the superior, Leeson was able to hide the losses from his bad trade in a secret account. In an attempt to recover lost money, Leeson began taking increasingly bigger odds. The losses in the secret account that Leeson was maintained, the amount has increased. Leeson was arrested in Germany, and after a failed bailout attempt, Barings went bankrupt. Okay, Leeson was charged with fraud on the ground that he had deceived his superior about the riskiness of this activity and the scale of his losses.
For that question, based on my opinion, all three explanations played a role in this case. For instance, Leeson's loss aversion stemmed from his fear of failure and humiliation has led him to cover his tracks. For years, he has contributed so much for Barings Banks and was known for his expertise and being competent. Surely he is not going to let a mistake made by some other employees to damage his reputation. Moreover, he hid his mistakes because his ego and greed were exacerbated by the macho trading environment in which he operated. Since his contributions are more than others in the company, some might say he will have enemies within those four walls itself. Other employees in the company will surely want to beat him if were given the chances to take his place. With that being said, losing his title as a manager will definitely taint his image. Lastly, the word failure has never been in his dictionary. Being at the top since beginning will increase his confidence and self-esteem. Hence, by admitting his defeat, suffering from common distortions in thinking pattern that often results from high level of stress, including overconfidence and denial, will happen to him. He has never been at the bottom of the wheel before, and experiencing it will refrain him from accepting the truth. In a nutshell, Lee Sen will do anything in his power to correct his wrong, even if it means breaking the law until he has his back cornered. With his attitude, he has bankrupted Barings Banks and made it worth for only €1. Lee Sen was then arrested and pled guilty for deceiving the auditors and cheated the CMAX.
Question us to view from two different perspectives. Before that, as we all know, on February 26, 1995, Barings Bank, the oldest bank in Great Britain, was unable to meet its funding requirement and was declared bankrupt. Barings was founded in 1762, helped finance the Napoleonic Wars, the Louisiana Purchase, and the Erie Canal, and 233 years later, on 3rd March 1995, Dutch bank ING bought it for a total of £1. How did something like this happen? Virtually all of the stories about this subject blame one man, Nick Leeson. The stories often told and retold are virtually the same. Firstly, we will look from Nick Leeson's reflections. He confessed it is likely a similar thing would have occurred in his letter, with or without him, due to the bank's incompetence and negligence. He said it was a very poorly run organization, and that was not endemic in the industry at the time. However, the lack of control and supervision were only contributory factors to its downfall, as you also need the wrongdoings. Leeson said the financial markets are about being tough and having courage of someone's convictions and winnings. Regarding the motives of his activities, he said he had a very exalted opinion of what success looked like. To him, being at the top of the organization and making important decisions are the only things he cared about. He also said he had a fear of failure, and those factors are the reason why he unable to stop and leads to over $1 billion in losses. Leeson did not blame the lack of control, but for him, if the controls are there, it can change someone's destiny greatly. Next, we will move to Judith Ronsley's reflections. Ronsley is a Hong Kong-based journalist and a former research analyst for Barings Securities in Japan. She also wrote a book voicing out her opinion related to this case. In her book, she declared that Leeson was the catalyst for a disaster that waiting to happen. She blames the Barings' downfall on lack of management, incompetence, and inadequate oversight, which caused the bank managers to ignore numerous warning signals regarding Leeson's speculation. Ronsley stated that Leeson was able to get away with his unauthorized transaction due to Barings offices foolishly allowed him to control both front and back office in Singapore. The officers ignore repeated warnings about the dangers of allowing Leeson to monitor his own activities, thus keep on funneling the money to him with a belief that he was making huge profits for the bank. Although Ronsley's book receiving a lot of criticism due to a number of anecdotal insights and lack of coherence, but the main point is she also having the thought that the blame supposedly lies to the Barings Banks to the Barings Bank management. Yes, it is true that Nick Leeson committed the fraud. He already took the full responsibility for his actions, pleaded guilty, and spent his time in jail. However, the collapse of Barings Bank cannot be placed 100% on him. Um, this was not a crime of just one person. Therefore, based on the reflections from both Nick Leeson and Judith Ronsley, the eventual collapse of Barings Bank, whether brought into open by the antics of Nick Leeson or by some other person, it will still happen due to the bank's lack of operational risk management. So the blame should primarily lies on the system within which Nick Leeson operates. The Barings story is truly fantastic and one that hopefully would not be repeated by another company if its lesson were fully and truly learned. At the end of the day, there are always risks in the financial markets that even the teams with best specialists are not able to avoid. In fact, these are life lessons that need to be applied to all parts of business.
We all make mistakes at work, but it is not a bad thing. It is how we grow and to be better at our job. So whatever it is, the most important thing that you need to do when you make mistake is to take action and to address the situation sooner rather than later. Leeson action to correct his employee mistake after the employee make loss on the trading activity eventually beat him back because the action that he took by himself led to the bigger losses and bankrupt the bank. If I were in a Leeson position after the initial loss made by the employee, the first thing that I would do is to be accountable for it. Even though the mistake is made by the employee or the staff, I as in the upper position should be accountable to it to show that I am responsible for my role. So in this situation, I would not freak out because when in a state of panic, it's easy for our brain to blow up things out of proportion. So when I make a mistake or my staff make a mistake, I should be prepared to take accountability for it. Reasonable people realize that when a mistake has been made, and more often than not, owning up to it solves the problem. Not owning up to it may add fuel to the spark and ignites the problem that maybe later I cannot contain it. So when make mistake, do not try to deny it, because as soon as I realize myself or my staff has made mistake, do not make excuses, but instead I can try to seek for an objective opinion before deciding that my career is finished. And the chances are, even it is bad, but I am not doomed to live shunned or unemployed for eternity. Next, I would be honest by the mistake that I have made. So bad news is best coming from the sources itself rather than the third party. So if I face my mistake quickly, it won't look like I'm trying to hide anything or defer the blame. So once I say it out loud, some of the burden will be lifted. Yes, it will now feel real, but I won't be carrying a secret while spinning out of control, imagining the worst. Once I admit to my mistake, I know what kind of situation that I will actually dealing with. So it's easy to point finger when things go wrong, or even to not speak up and hope that no one noticed the error. Everyone make mistakes, but odds are good as long as the mistakes are not the norm for myself. People will be appreciative and lenient when I come to them with honesty. I will also build up trust because everyone knows how hard it is to come forward and own the error. To prove that I'm courageous enough to have integrity and own mistakes. Lastly is to be upfront to show that I'm relatable to my position. To figure out how to expedite a solution by informing the people or the person that are going to be impacted by the mistakes. So in this case, I will inform my upper management to let them know first that the mistake was made. But I don't need to get into the details because that can quickly sound like excuses. Just let them know the problem and then present the solution that I have already planned to see if that works. Sometimes if the plan doesn't work, the only thing that I can do is to apologize. And if that's the case, I need to do it sincerely and profusely. So instead of promising not to make mistake in the future, it is better to earn back trust through my action. So the best way to earn people trust and admiration is to deliver a consistent, great work. There are few people who earn back trust through their action. For example, President Bill Clinton. He was publicly shamed for infidelity, but he went on to receive the UN Citizen of the World Award a few years later in honor of his human rights and contribution to the planet. And have you ever heard of Akio Morita? His first invention was a terrible rice cooker that burned rice, which obviously no one wanted. He sold that 100 units of them. That mistake did not stop him from trying to improve though. He kept working and eventually his little gadget company, today known as Sony, became a household name. So in conclusion, one mistake, it doesn't care a small or a big one, does not have to derail your life or career if you address the mistake correctly.
Thank you for that last question. I, for myself, have no trouble owning up to my mistakes because throwing somebody else under the bus or keeping your mistakes to yourself will eventually bite you back in the back. You have to own up to your mistakes so that the mistake will not hurt anybody else. In life, making mistakes is normal. It means that you are learning and it will help you grow. Owning up to your mistakes will ensure that you will not repeat the same mistake ever again. For an example, I have once cheated on a test during my diploma years and I own up to it the next day after feeling remorseful and guilty because I know that I will not be proud of the marks that I'm going to get. And somehow it is not because of my hard work. Unfortunately, I got 0 marks for that test, but somehow I feel good about myself for the courage in me to admit my mistakes. For the other people, I have not yet met anybody that does not own up to their mistakes, and I think it is not my place to say anything as I have no control on how they act or what they do. Therefore, it is their own responsibility to choose how they deal with their mistakes. However, I understood why some people are not able to own up to their own mistakes because they are afraid that by owning up to their mistakes will tarnish their reputation and ruin their career or relationship with others. Nevertheless, I know some people that own up to their mistakes. Example, in the case of a former Ulster Unionist leader, Mike Nesbitt, resigned as deputy chair of a Stormont committee after coming clean that he had broken the lockdown rules. Yes, the rules now that we are currently having. In another example, Jose Manuel Soria, as the former Spanish Minister of Industry, Energy and Tourism, has stepped down after documents in the Panama Papers connected him to a company in the tax haven of Jersey. He was using offshore banks accounts and shell companies to conceal their wealth or avoid taxes.